emphasizing improving the pass rush this offseason. Is this something that you envisioned happening?
Well, I mean, it's the end goal, right? We're still not there yet. We still have a lot of work to do. And I thought this game this past yesterday, in fact, was a step in the right direction. But a lot of that goes back to what you do on the early downs as well, in terms of setting up third down passing situations.
And I guess, we talked to you a lot about, your ties and to Andy Reid and over the past couple of years. Now, for the first time since 2017, and that was early on, you get to face another former mentor. And how much do you appreciate Ron Rivera and what he did for you and giving you that shot, way back when? And how do you approach this game knowing that he's on the other sideline?
Well, I mean, Ron has been one of my biggest mentors in this business. And as you mentioned, Andy Reid, Ron Rivera has been a huge influence in my career. And he's taught me a lot. Going to Carolina, learned a lot in those 6 years under Ron and his tutelage, both in a head coach position and from a defensive standpoint. And our ties go all the way back to Philadelphia, of course. And so he taught me a lot about the linebacker position when I was his QC and worked with the linebackers as well. So, and then just in terms of Ron being on the other sideline, I mean, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Ron, his family. They're outstanding people of high character, and glad he's seems to be doing well health-wise. And I'm just happy that he's had the success that he's had.
Thanks, Sean.
Sure.
Hey, Sean, after the game, Zack said that he attended his aunt's funeral Saturday morning. And just what did you see from him being able to bounce back, not only after the fumble, but the fact that he was dealing with those emotions as well?
Yeah, I thought it showed a tremendous amount of character and focus, and the teammates did a great job supporting Zack as he went down there. And I mean, that's not easy to do, to go down there early ahead of the team and take care of business like he had to take care of on the personal side of things, and then shift gears and get focused to playing an NFL football game in the heat. So I thought he really did a phenomenal job. And as I mentioned last night after the game, Heather, I thought it was really fascinating to watch. After he had the fumble, he did a great job resetting, and mentally that showed a lot of strength and toughness, and got himself to where he was and having a really, really good game. So
he said that last year, he dealt with something similar, in the Monday night game against San Francisco. And he said that the fact that you went back to him, especially in that game, the fact that you went back to him after the fumble and continue to tell him that you trust him really meant a lot, and it went a long way. I guess just, what does that mean to you to hear something like that, and for you to continue to have that trust in your player, or anybody really, after something like that happens?
Yeah, well, it's not just me. It's Kelly Skipper, our running backs coach. It's Brian Dable, our coordinator, of course. And I just think overall, that's what you'd want. That's what I would want if I were a player, to be able to be given the chance to, as I mentioned before, to reset and learn from the mistake that I made. And we try and create an environment here where we talk about that and where we can try and follow through on that. We're not perfect. I'm not perfect with that, but I think being able to try and follow through on that best we can is important for our players to try and play aggressive and take risk, healthy risk. And I think that's a key part of who we are.
Great. Thanks, Sean.
Yep.
Hi, Sean. Adam Benini. I was thinking yesterday, as the game was kind of coming to an end and we're heading downstairs, I was trying to get my head around, the fact that we're going to ask you some questions in addition to what the defense did about maybe what some of the issues were offensively, and then you immediately addressed them, to your credit, in the post game. It leads me to this. I mean, what does it say about where your program and to use your word, the process is at, given the fact that after a 35-0 win over the Dolphins on the road, that the focus is on where and how you can get better in the way, that it was after that game. I mean, how far along has this team and organization come in that sense, I guess?
Well, I just think, Adam, respectfully, that's who we are. That's how we do business here. And, we're always looking to get better every day. And whether you win or lose, my job is to pinpoint the areas where this football team needs to improve and then find ways to get those things improved offensively, defensively, or special teams. And our coaches are wired that way as well. We've got great coaches here that they know, we know collectively what we expect and what we've got to do to move this team forward week to week. So I don't know if it's as much of a measure of where the organization is as much as it is probably just a mindset and that just passion of trying to become the best that we can become.
Does it speak at all to the environment that you just mentioned with regard to Zack Moss, the environment you're trying to create, that a culture, whatever it is you want to call it, that has players responding to that teaching and to those lessons in the way that they do?
Yeah, and that goes back to the players that Brandon brings in, right? With those guys being wired the right way, that they're willing to take coaching, willing to take constructive criticism at times. And listen, there's not every time can we afford to. Hey, the guy's been given a chance to reset, and he didn't reset, and he makes the same mistake again. Then there's other things that come into play here. So I don't want to make this out to be something it's not. It's just us trying to continue to grow as an organization, as coaches, to develop a mindset that I think is a healthy mindset for our players and coaches to perform it.
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah.
Hi, Sean. Are there any aspects of Ron's leadership and coaching that you see in yourself?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that, I look back at now to our time together. And, there's things that as an assistant coach, you don't always understand why a head coach does the things that he does sometimes. And I'm sure that was probably the case for Ron working under Andy. And I can tell you it was the case for me working under Ron. And I think that's healthy until you're really in that position, in those shoes, you don't always get the whys and understanding of the big picture of things. So I just have my respect for Ron Rivera has grown exponentially since becoming a head coach myself. And so I just, I always had respect for Ron and we have a deep friendship, but that respect and admiration has grown immensely.
And then just wanted to ask about, it looked like Tremaine Edmonds got a game ball yesterday. Was there any significance behind that?
No, just I thought the defense overall, he's the leader of our defense or one of the leaders of our defense. And I felt like overall, just the overall defensive effort couldn't award, 11 game balls. So we gave it to Tremaine.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean, staying on the defense, Levi had the taunting penalty, then comes right back with the interception. Then we saw he had to leave the game with cramps. Is that why he didn't come back in the game? Because we didn't see much of him. We saw a lot of Dane after Levi had to leave the game.
Yeah, I mean, he had that situation come up during the game there, and felt like we were in a spot where we didn't need to have him back out there at the time. So until we knew more about what it was, we just wanted to play it on the safe side.
And then offensively, Cody Ford 100% of the snaps, no rotation, at least in this game. What have you seen from him, even in just 2 weeks of game action, that has given you the confidence that he should earn that playing time that he did yesterday?
Well, I see his mentality and his attitude, John, starting to come out, right? What we saw in college, and that personality and attitude can leave a mark on our offense in a positive way. And I think that's been good to watch. He continues to grow with the technique part of the game. And I thought our offensive line showed signs of growth yesterday, and I'm encouraged by that. Is there still room? Absolutely. There's still a lot of room for growth, just like there is with our entire football team. So I was encouraged by that.
Thanks, Sean.
Coach, Mookie Harkins, World Sports 1080. How you doing?
Good, Mookie. How are you?
I'm good, man. 35 to Krispy Kreme, no glaze. Great display. After watching film, Coach, what were some of your bright spots and some of miscues from yesterday's victory?
Well, I thought we got off to a good fast start in the game overall, which was good. We played good complementary football. Defense 3 and out, good punt return, and then we set our offense up, and our offense second play of the game, hit the ball off tackle there. So I thought we got off to a good start. We picked up some takeaways, which we were looking for. Offensively, we came out after half and got into a good rhythm. I thought the adjustments, as I said after the game at halftime, that were made were on point, and then special teams I thought factored into that win in a again complementary role, and the punt before half was a big momentum swing, if you will.
Absolutely, Coach. And early in that second half, with Jacoby Brissett out there, they were trying to find some early success and trying to isolate you guys in cover 2. But Poyer and Hyde adjusted to that very, very quickly and took that away. What makes them the best tandem in the NFL, Coach?
Well, listen, I have a great appreciation for those two. They've been with us since we arrived here, and they put in so much time. They're big leaders in our locker room, right? I mean, they're positive every day. They're different in their own way. Jordan a little bit maybe serious. Mike a little bit more lighter on a daily basis, but I really appreciate both of them and what they bring to our football team.
Absolutely. We appreciate you too, Coach. Good luck this week.
All right. Thanks, Mookie.
Hi, John. Matt Paris from the Washington Times. Ron has talked a little bit about how when he reached out to you guys and emphasis on kind of what you guys have built in Buffalo. What do you remember from those conversations, and what was it like for your mentor to basically asking you for advice and stuff to do to pick your brain?
Yeah, you broke up on the early part of the question, but I'll do the best with what I heard, Matt. It's that's what we do as coaches. That's what we do in this business, is try and learn from other people. And I think it says a lot about Ron, and I know Ron's got a great relationship with Brandon Beane as well, and so they're close friends. And I'm sure Brandon shared a lot of things that Ron maybe had some questions about, but Ron has helped both of us, as Marty Herney as well. So there's a mutual admiration, mutual respect, friendship, and I just think that we're all in this for the same reason, the same goal here, and that's to become the best we can.
Hey, Sean, I just want to clarify with the Levi situation. You said you were waiting until you had more information. Is there any update you can share on him going forward, or is it mostly just the cramping?
Yeah, mostly just some irritation that was going on there.
Okay, and then I just wanted to see the offensive line yesterday. Did you like how they looked yesterday? Was that a step in the right direction in terms of that group?
It was. I felt like there were definitely signs of growth there. I thought all 5 guys that played, and then we brought Spencer Brown in, had their moments for sure that were positive. And then there's some things that I know all of them want back, and plays that they have to continue to learn from as individual players and as a group. And so that'll be another step this week, and a necessary step that we must take for us to be successful.
Hi, Sean. Miranda Walker with The Athletic. I'm just curious, when you came in as defensive coordinator with the Carolina Panthers, I believe Scott Turner was an offensive quality control coach at the time. Just what do you remember about him at the time that you met him those 2 years? And then how have you seen him develop recently as offensive coordinator?
Yeah, what I remember about Scott was he was extremely hardworking. Obviously coming from a football family, had a football mind, or a mind for the game, and was always asking questions, always working hard at his job, and whatever his job was, whether it's quality control, or as I saw him go up the ranks at the different organizations. In those cases, it was from a distance, because I think he went to Minnesota from there. Just always seemed to have a good feel for the game, and always respected that.
And this is just out of general curiosity. A lot of the coaches that Ron brought over to Washington are people that you're fairly familiar with as well too. Does that familiarity help at all at any level, or is there just so much time that has passed that it really is negligible at this point?
Yeah, I don't think it helps really, to be honest with you. It's just more, I think, just probably respect and admiration on our end for those coaches and staff. They've got some really good coaches that left Carolina that went to Washington and that obviously continue to do a great job in what they did last season and to start their off to this season. So I learned a lot from those coaches.
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate it.
Sean, hey, to kind of build on that, is there anything you have to tweak when there is that degree of familiarity, whether it's language or play calls or anything, in the sense that you may have brought that language with you to Buffalo?
Yeah, I think, just across the league, everyone's always trying to be aware of some of the language that's out there, and especially with the terminology and the way that the TV copies anymore pick up and bring the NFL into the fans' living room. It's there's a lot of things that are audible out there, so we try and self-scout that. I'm sure Washington does the same.
And a Tremaine Edmonds question, if you don't mind, just could you speak to the growth he's made just in terms of his leadership and being a guy who would be a game ball guy from when he's arrived to now?
Yeah, I mean, Tremaine has always been a tremendous young man, as you guys know. Great family, great support, great love on from that standpoint, and he's always wanted to learn. And I think the biggest thing I've seen is his ability to communicate and take charge of our defense, and I think that's grown over the years, and it's at its height right now, and so just the leader that he's become, I think, has been really a joy to watch as a coach.
Hi, Sean. Nikki Javala from the Washington Post. Another question about Tremaine. For him to step in and be able to start immediately at the mic after you drafted him, what sort of learning curve did he face, and how quickly did he kind of develop into that role?
Yeah, when you play that position, Mike linebacker in particular, that's one of the quarterbacks of the defense, if you will, right? So there's the depth of the playbook is deeper than at most other positions. So that's a hard ask for a young player to come in and be able to do his job, yet also line other people up and coordinate the defense out there for us. I think you saw him work through that in the early year or two there, and now it seems like he's really gotten to be pretty darn good at it, in fact. So it's fun to watch him out there.
And for going against a relatively inexperienced quarterback like Taylor Heineke, how much tape do you feel you need to really understand a player's tendencies, to know what he likes, what he's going to do, et cetera?
Well, I saw what he did in that playoff game against Tampa last season, and that was impressive. And I caught a little bit of the game on TV last Thursday night where they won, and so it's my exposure honestly is a little bit limited at this point, just in my week at this point. So I'll watch a little bit more as I get off the call here.
Thank you.
Sure.
We've heard, hey, Sean, Pete Haley from NBC Sports Washington. We've heard Ron drop all types of sayings, be where your feet are, don't make what's interesting important, various things like that. I'm wondering if any of those those coach sayings have stuck with you as you've built your career here in Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing he always said every morning was attitude, preparation, and effort are the things that our team could control. I think he called it the inner ape, controlling your inner ape, and I don't know if he's used that or not, but I think that's very true and powerful.
Hey, Sean, John Kine, ESPN. You brought up how your level of respect went up for him exponentially when you became a head coach. What were some situations that maybe you look back on now and say, oh, now I get it? Were there anything in particular where it just jumped out a little?
Nothing, I guess, in particular, but just overall. I mean, there was times where as coaches, we always want more time. We always want another rep in the practice schedule. And there would be times when I would ask for another rep for the defense, and he'd shoot it down, and yet then there's times when the offense would come back and say, "Hey, we need another rep," and he'd grant it. So I think from that standpoint, I don't know why it's this way, but we as defensive coaches sometimes try and make it harder on our own, if you will, and I do the same here, and I don't know why it is, and I try and figure out why, but that also made us tougher on defense and made us develop a mentality that I know Ron wanted us to have.
And then his teams always, when you're in Carolina, and even last year, they seem to play well in the second half of the year.
Why is that? Is that what you asked?
Yes.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit. I don't know. That's probably a better question for Ron. I think he does a great job of motivating his team and especially to play well down the stretch.
Hey, Sean, Sam 48 with the Washington Post. You've talked a little bit about, I think in other places, about Josh Allen's growth. And I wonder, other than maybe patience or finding the right guy right away, what are some of the things that you have to put around a quarterback in terms of his growth and in the way that Josh has so far?
Are you asking about personnel? Or?
Yeah, either as a coach or, finding the right structures, I guess, in order to, get him to develop him along as you guys have with Josh.
Well, I think it's a total team effort across the organization, right? From the way the head coach, the way the offensive coordinator, the way the quarterback coach handle their dealings with the quarterback, how the media and how Derek Boyko in this case handles his dealings with Josh, and the plan in the off season for the quarterback. So there's a lot. I mean, it is a comprehensive plan, if you will, that you put on the table when you draft a young quarterback. And Josh, to his credit, has taken a lot of it on his own and taken a lot of ownership of that process. And so you got to have that as well.
Were there parts of that process, that comprehensive plan, that surprised you? Obviously, being a defensive coach.
No, I mean, I saw it being under Andy Reid with Donovan, and then being under Ron with Cam. So I was around two situations where we had young, high draft pick quarterbacks that were developed over time, and so I was able to take good notes on those situations and how they unfolded.
Thank you.
Sure.
That's all we have for today. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, guys.
You guys there?
Hey, Brian, how are you?
Hey, Matt, how's it going, buddy?
Pretty good. Obviously a lot went right for you guys yesterday. But in the first half, after the strong start, the 2 touchdowns, the offense struggled a little bit. Some of the accuracy numbers for Josh, in the first 2 weeks have been down. What do you attribute to that to maybe like the inconsistency so far to the effectiveness of the offense?
Well, I'd say you're not going to score on every drive we'd like to. A tough league. We got a lot of good players on defense, good coaches. You do the best you can on each drive. Sometimes one thing stalls a drive. In terms of the numbers, I'm not, really concerned about that. I'm concerned about the decision making right now, and when we're throwing it away, making good decisions under stress, and he's done a good job with that.
Thanks.
Yep.
Hey, Brian, Adam Benini, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Kind of following up on that a little bit, Josh brought that right up in the post game, and it was kind of a discussion point during the game. He used the words that he's struggling to get into a rhythm. And obviously, a lot of this is a better question for him. But as the offensive coordinator and a guy that works with him as closely as you do, what do you take from that? And how do you try and maybe diagnose that and fix it within game?
Yeah, I think that, number one, I got a lot of confidence in Josh. He's his harshest critic. It's not really different than anything we do week to week. We try to not ride a roller coaster. We try to be as consistent as we can in terms of the corrections that we need to make as an offensive unit, and whether it's scheme, whether it's plays, whether it's throws, whether it's runs, whether it's blocks. We kind of try to keep a level head. And again, this league is a tough league. It's a week to week league. And I'm glad that's what makes him a really good football player. And he's so competitive and hard on himself. He's fun to coach.
Secondly, was it a concerted effort to have more balance in terms of the offensive attack in that game yesterday?
Yeah, Adam, we try to do things each week that we think gives us a chance. And obviously that was part of the plan yesterday, as you saw, relative to numbers and things like that. I thought there was a lot of good things. It's hard to score 35 points in the National Football League. But there's certainly a lot of things that we all can do better, that we want to do better. Look, our goal is to try to score on every drive. So, when you get to a point when you feel like that and you're disappointed that you didn't punch it in or get any points, I think that's a healthy thing, because there's a lot of guys in the room that, we have a standard. We try to play and coach to that standard, regardless of the score, regardless of the situation, whatever that may be. And I think that's a credit to the guys we have in the room.
Thanks, Brian.
You got it.
Hey, Brian, when looking at snap numbers, one that really jumped is Dawson Knox. I think it was the most snaps he's ever played in the game. How much of that was game plan specific, and how much of it is you'd just like to get him more involved and out there?
I think a lot of it is game plan specific. We have a lot of confidence in Dawson. He's played a lot of plays for us yesterday. We had I'd say a variety of personnel groups, probably a little bit more than we've had in the past going into that game. And most of them involved a tight end for that game. So, he's our tight end that we look to. So therefore he got a lot of reps.
And I asked Sean about Cody Ford, no rotation this week. And he mentioned he believes he's starting to see the mentality and attitude that was evident when he was playing at Oklahoma. Do you sense you're seeing a different version of him than maybe you had in previous years?
Well, I think he's kind of always had that attitude, if you will, that's ingrained in him, and probably his upbringing and, his mindset. I think that, the consistency, again, he's coming back from some injuries. I've said this before, he's had a good camp, and, the only way to get better is to play. And go through some of the things that you have to go through as a younger player, or a player that hasn't played maybe as much with some injuries and things like that. So, he's done a nice job for us. I think he's got, as we all do, a whole improvement mindset. But he's improving each week, and that's what you look for in your guys.
Appreciate it, Dabes.
You got it.
Hey, Brian. I was curious,
Hey, man, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Josh and a couple of the guys had mentioned yesterday that some last minute stuff was added in Saturday to the game plan. Is that normal, or, why did that happen?
Yeah, I think, look, our job as a coaching staff is to prepare all the way up, and then throughout the game, it's not like it's, things we don't, know how to do or anything like that. Maybe it's a tweak of a blocking pattern or a new code word, or, maybe it's a play that someone saw studying at night. Sometimes it's from the players that are watching tape, and sometimes it's from the coaches. And I think one of the good things as you get involved in a program and you're, on your third or your fourth year with people that you work with and have some continuity, I think that's some of the good things you can do. In year one, not as much. In year four, if a zone scheme is better than a man scheme, or we think we need to change a code word, whatever it may be, that's really no different to me than changing. We've changed plays in the first quarter, we changed plays in the third quarter, we changed plays in the fourth quarter. We just try to do anything we can do to try to give our guys the best chance.
And then I was curious, going back to Zack Moss as much as you did yesterday after the fumble and, keeping him out there in those situations, especially after he was inactive last week. For you, what kind of confidence do you have in him, and why did you want to give him those opportunities?
Well, I have confidence in all our guys. Again, this is not a game where it's a mistake-free game. Whether you're coaching or playing, you're going to go through some obstacles. Could be physically, could be mentally, could be a play call, whatever it may be. And you have to be able to bounce back, and you have to show belief in your players that they're going to bounce back. I mean, if you pulled everybody because they made a mistake, you wouldn't really have anybody. I don't think that's healthy anyways for the psyche of a team or a player. Showing confidence, showing trust, showing that you have the guys back, I think is important for any player, because I think that gives them confidence. At the end of the day, we all have jobs to do. And they're not always going to be perfect. You're going to wish you had some plays back most every game, whether you win, whatever the score is, or whether you lose. I think having a healthy respect for an individual and what they're trying to accomplish is always important, because lack of confidence in a player that could go south really quick. And the guys that we have on our football team, I think we all, and I know I can speak for myself, have confidence in all the guys and all the coaches. And you got to have some mental toughness about yourself. You're going to go through things during a year where it's not going to be perfect. A drop ball, a call, a fumble, a throw, a missed block. Those are always going to happen. I think the mark of a leader is to weather the storm, to show you have confidence in those players and those coaches, and then go out there and go back to work.
Is it kind of cool to see him take advantage of those opportunities? Once he took advantage of that, though.
Yeah, I think. Look, when you show confidence in players and they go out there and they perform, you have such a deep admiration for what these guys do. They work hard. They bust their tails, all of them. They put it on the line each and every week. You see them out here practicing and fighting through some nicks and bruises, and it's early in the game, but in the training room or iced up on a plane because they're cramping. You had the level of respect you have for these guys, I think is important, because they do. It takes a toll on these guys. And then when you go out and you watch them have some success that ultimately contributes to the team success, that's really what you're happy for.
Thanks.
Yep, you got it.
Hey, Daves, just wanted to know what going
Hey,
up
Maddie,
against.
how are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good.
Just wanted to know what going up against a tough defensive line in the Steelers week 1, how it helps you prepare for another tough defensive line that you're going to see on Sunday in the Washington football team being loaded with first-round picks up front.
Sure, I think that's a thoughtful question. We got to dive in. Just kind of started on these guys, and I have some familiarity with some of them. There's a bunch of SEC guys on that roster, 2 from Alabama that I know, and 1 from Mississippi State. So they're, and then obviously the first rounder from Ohio State. Look, they're first rounders for a reason. They're big, they're strong, they're athletic, they can move. Obviously it'll be a challenge. It always is when you're playing a really good defensive line. That's where it starts. And, we'll have our work cut out for us.
Thanks.
You got it.
Coach Dable, Mookie Hawkins, Wolf Sports 1080. How's it going, sir?
Hey, Mook, how are you?
I'm doing good, Coach. Last week, 1 for 4 in the red zone. This week, 4 for 4 in the red zone. Was that a point of emphasis going into this week, making sure that you were dead on inside the red?
Yeah, look, that's where most of these games, where it's won and loss is finishing with 7 points. The field condenses, there's tighter coverage. The windows are smaller. And one play can make a huge difference in a game. In this case, I thought that our guys were, were really focused. And they were focused the week before. We didn't get the job done. And, going 4 for 4 is obviously was a huge thing in this game.
Absolutely, Coach. And two players to, mention, Dawson Knox and Devin Singletary. And, first play out the gate, man, for them to execute that split zone, those two with Dawson coming across and Devin was able to press it and hit it, man. How excited were you for that play to be well executed, and also Dawson Knox coming up with that big touchdown catch in the back in end zone?
Yeah, again, much like the Zack Moss deal, 2 players that we've had in the program since we drafted them. I think they've gotten better each year. They've weathered some ups and some downs, but they have the right mindset that we covet here. Have a lot of confidence in those guys. And look, it was well blocked on that second play, but let's not forget about Emmanuel Sanders' block to really spring them. Those perimeter blocks on the edge are really important. And, there was a blitzing guy off the edge that Steph just got enough of to hold him up for a second. And Emmanuel, went off and finished it on a defensive back, which was key. We probably ran the ball a little bit more than we've run it here in the past. And it was a total team effort with those guys on the perimeter as well.
Hey, man, go out there and get it done. Good luck this week and get those 4 Aaron Donalds.
Thanks, Luke.
Hey, Brian, Mike Catalana.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Good. Sean always says, do your 1/11. But in reality, the quarterback has a lot on his plate. You pay him a lot of money. That's what he's there for. And you say, Josh is his harshest critic.
Yeah.
Are there moments like you scored 35, the team won? I get that, but it's a lot's on Josh. Are there moments you got to go back to the build-up time with him? You build up he's a great player now, and there's so much on him and so much is expected of him. And is him being his harshest critic always a good thing?
Yeah, I think it's the competitor inside of him. We were just talking for a while upstairs. And, he's got that, I'm not going to say despondent look, but he's just kind of, now he's like, I should have done this, this, and this. And I said, yeah, I know, look, we can always do better. All of us, we can always do better. I said, but there's so many little things that maybe outside of really understanding and knowing what we're doing, some of the things that he did really, he really did a good job in those. Obviously he wants to complete every pass. And, I said, look, I don't care how many throwaways you have. If you got to throw the football away and that's the best decision, then that's the best decision. Again, I don't mind him being his harshest critic. He wants to be so good. I think that's what helped him to improve each and every year. And that's a great thing to have too, because again, this league is a tough league. There's tough opponents, there's tough coaching staffs, there's tough schemes to go against. And you're not going to be perfect every week. There's going to be some downs. There's going to be some hiccups and some, it's not going to be always great. I think it's important not to ride a roller coaster. And I think he's, in the year that he's in, 4th year and he's done a lot of good things. I think that mindset is really important. Because you can get down real quick in this business as much as you can get up. And I think the good players, the good coaches that I've learned from and been around and players are as consistent as they can be. And he's always, whether we win or whether we lose, it's not the, 55 plays or 60 plays that he did the exact right way. It's the 6 plays or the 5 plays that he wishes he had back. And I think if you're a competitor, that's the way it should be. Whether it's a coach, whether it's a player, look, we're supposed to do it right. That's our job. It's not always going to happen that way. So can you be mentally strong enough and tough enough to whether handle the coaching, handle the criticism, whatever it may be, to keep on moving forward with the improvement mindset. And that's him to a T.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You got it.
Hey, Brian, Ben Standing with The Athletic.
Hey,
You
Ben.
mentioned, you mentioned some of those defensive linemen with Washington that you're familiar with, Taron Payne,
Yep.
John Allen. I guess what could you tell us about your time together with them, seeing them develop there, and then how you've seen them progress in the NFL?
Yeah, I wasn't there with Jonathan. Just have heard the stories around there. What a impressive young man he is in person, and obviously you put on the tape he is. I was there with Painter. He's got good hands. He caught a nice goal line touchdown pass against Clemson. So good young man. Two really good players. Know the game of football really well. Just hold him in high regard. And again, not being around Jonathan when I was there, just hearing the people in the building talk about him as a person too, not just a player. High respect to him.
And sort of as a separate question, you guys have developed Josh Allen into the player that he is. He played a lot as a rookie. I'm just curious your thoughts as to the idea of bringing in rookie quarterbacks. I know every situation can be unique depending on the player and the situation, but the idea of playing a rookie quarterback pretty quickly, getting them thrown in, or is it better perhaps to wait and develop them on the side?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, Ben. I think it just depends. It varies from team to team. The situation you're in, I couldn't tell you the situation I know the situation that we were in when Josh started playing. It takes, I always say it takes a village, kind of like raising your children with a quarterback, because it's a very difficult position to play. There's a lot that goes into it in terms of not just on the field, the instruction of defenses, the instructions of offensive scheme, vocabulary, all those type of things, but it's also taxing outside the building. Quarterbacks get a fair share of credit. They also get the fair share of blame. And there's just so many people that are involved in helping develop that position, particularly when you draft one in the first round. Thoughts, habits, priorities, scheme, taking care of your body, how to deal with, the people in the community. There's so many layers to it, Ben. So I think each situation is probably a little bit different. We handled it the way we handled it. But there's a lot of people, and it starts with the player. Let's not forget that, the way the player was raised, his upbringing, his intangibles, his commitment to doing the things that he needs to do to try to be successful. His intelligence, I'd say both on and off the field, but his understanding of the game, it's a wide variety. It takes a long time, and you're most likely going to go through some bumps, right? So being able to handle that in terms of the psychology aspect of it, of being a young quarterback in this league is really critical as well. And there's a lot of people that are here to help Josh. The consistency of the relationships in the building. You go through, some young quarterbacks go through 4 different coordinators in 4 different years or whatever it may be, and they're on to the next. It takes a village.
Thank you.
You got it.
Hi, Brian. Andrew Golden from the Washington Post.
Hey, Andrew. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good.
I wanted to ask about Josh Allen's ability to run the football. People talk a lot about his arm. How important is him running the football to your game plan, what you guys do as an offense?
Yeah, I think, Andrew, that varies from game to game. Some are design runs, some are zone read runs, some are just quarterback loose play scrambles where he sees some openings where he can step up and make some yards with his feet. Sometimes we have more in a game plan. It just depends on, what we're seeing defensively and what we think would work for us. But obviously he's a guy that, the whole dual threat quarterback, coming out in 5 stars and 4 stars that are either dual threats or pocket passers. Nowadays you're seeing more and more people move and run with the quarterback. Just evens up the numbers at times. And at the same time, you try to be smart with it.
Thank you.
You got it, man.
Thanks, Coach. That's all the questions we have for today.
Thanks, guys.
That's the thing here with the wind in the cold. It's cold. If we got to go down there, man, they should come. Yeah. When do they come this time? December. Halloween. 31st. That's nice. It's not gonna be so bad. Do I need to hit some?
Hi, Coach. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes.
All right. We'll jump into questions now.
Okay.
Hey, Leslie. John Worrell with the AP.
Hey, John.
Let's go down memory lane here. Is there anything that kind of stands out to you from 1999 and being in the same room as Ron and Sean in Philadelphia?
Well, a lot of good memories, being around Sean, of course, and young Sean and Ron and I, go even farther back than 99, playing together in Chicago. So, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of fun memories of being at the vet, trying to survive and dealing with all the things that come along with being in the basement of the vet, whether it's varmints running around and cats trying to catch the varmints. And here we are trying to work in that environment at the same time as a young staff. But yeah, they're fun memories, fun memories.
How many did Ron or Sean stamp out?
Hey, we were doing our best trying to work around them and sick the cats on them as much as we could. We were all just fending for ourselves back in those days.
And because I know you and Ron played together back in Chicago, but what if you're looking at Sean? Just what influence do you think? Having known Sean in '99, and then what influence did you see maybe Ron had on Sean, during their time together in Carolina that you might have noticed when you got here in 2017?
Back then we were a new staff in '99, and we were all kind of learning our way and just figuring things out. I know for Ron and I, it was our first NFL coaching jobs, and the same for Sean, his first time coming into the NFL. So I think Sean would tell you that it was just a watching Ron model himself as a coach and as a person is probably what he took away from that experience. It wasn't so much verbal instruction or, hey, here's the way to do it, or don't do it that way. It was more modeling than anything back then.
And I'm sorry for taking up so much time here to my colleagues, but do you think, because Sean was coming like out of William and Mary, and you guys had played in the NFL, do you think that helped? I don't want to say that Sean was intimidated by your presence, but the fact that, do you think that he gravitated to you guys because you guys had NFL experience and were on that defense?
I think it factored in for sure. That definitely mattered. The fact that we had played and now we were coaching mattered to Sean and our players as well. So I think that, gave Ron credibility with Sean. I think Sean eventually worked with linebackers for a period, which was the position that Ron coached prior to his, moving on. So I'm sure he picked up some things from Ron when it comes to coaching linebackers that helped him when he worked with that position for a period.
Thanks so much, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Hey, Leslie, Heather Prusak here. Good to see you.
Hey, Heather.
Last week, we talked a lot about how, as a defense, they didn't find any ways to take the ball away. And, after the game, Jordan was really hard on himself and for not causing any turnovers. And you guys have 2 in this game. I guess just, what is it like to see them put such an emphasis on that and then have it pay off in the game in such a big way like that?
Oh, it's awesome, for that to happen, because it was definitely an emphasis throughout the week that we wanted to take the football away, and then for it to come to fruition in the game and really, helped our team have success. It's a big deal, and so we'll continue to harp on it, and hopefully we'll get the results continue going forward. But it just validates the importance of whatever you want to achieve, emphasizing that, and you can achieve what you emphasize. So we're going to continue to do that.
Micah was, praising your play calling after the game and, saying that he loved like the aggressive play calling and the fact that you guys were blitzing, with guys in the back end. You saw Micah and Taron have those sacks in the first drive there. Just, was that, I guess, what was the mindset behind just being so aggressive like that, and then to see the pass rush just have such a huge day like that?
I'm not sure, Heather. I think he's speaking in code. He's, saying, hey, get Coach Frazier to blitz me more. That's what he's saying. That's exactly what he's saying. No, we went into it saying we wanted to be aggressive and really attack the line of scrimmage, and our guys executed. I mean, that's the key to our success, the execution and the preparation during the week. A lot of the things that we did are things we've done in the past, but the execution was on point, and the guys did a terrific job during the week of preparing to go out and execute their assignments. And every week is a little bit different in how you approach that opponent, but that was what we thought we needed to do against that particular opponent.
Thanks, Leslie. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Hey, Leslie, can you hear me?
Yes, man.
I wanted to ask Jordan and Micah about Taron Johnson's performance yesterday. They wouldn't even let me get the question out because they had a lot to say about him right away. I mean, we've covered these stories in the past, guys that you've brought along and developed. But with Taron, it's just like, I remember even being in the locker room with him in 19, and some of those days, those hard practice days where you wonder, like, is he going to kind of figure it out? I mean, his story is pretty remarkable in how he's kind of ascended to what he's doing right now.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I mean, in those early days, not only was he wondering, we were wondering also, is he going to figure it out? Is he going to come along and be what we thought he would be when we drafted him? And to Taron's credit, he's worked extremely hard to get a good grasp of the defense to the point where now he's like a coach on the field. And Jimmy Salgado, who works with our nipples, has done a terrific job of spending time with him, both at practice, in the classroom, pre-practice, post-practice. So that's helped as well. One of the bigger concerns with Taron was the injury bug. Early on, he continued to get injured, and we couldn't keep him on the field. But lately, he's been able to stay on the field, and he's developed into a really, really good player, one of the best slot corners in the National Football League. So we are very fortunate to watch his development and see his maturation over this period.
Is that you mentioned, what he's able to do out there, play fast. We've talked about it with Tremaine a ton over the years. But what is maybe an example where you maybe saw a light go on in that department, or is it just something over the course of time that you just get to a point?
I think in Taron's case, it's just been a matter of steady growth at the position. For example, in the ball game yesterday, we're playing a zone coverage, where we want to kind of disguise it and make it look like man as much as we can. And he's doing a good job of that, trying to trick the quarterback, which is something he wouldn't have done, say, 2 years ago. But because of his experience, because of his growth and his confidence, he's able to do things like that. And it turned out to be a play where he ended up stripping the football, and Matt Milano ends up recovering the football just because of some of his disguise. And it was similar to the pick that he got in the Ravens game for a touchdown. Same deal, just moving around, trying to disguise, and having the confidence to jump a play and make a big play. So just steady growth over a period of time.
Thanks, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Hey, Leslie, it's John. Last week I asked you about Levi because they went after him, and you always say, and you said last week, the best way is to make them stop going your way. Do you feel, obviously he left the game dealing with some cramping, but do you feel before that's exactly the bounce back type of performance that he had?
No doubt about it. He made a couple of nice plays in that ball game prior to his injury, one being the interception, and that was a big play for us. I think it was coming off of maybe a turnover, and then we go back out and we get a takeaway, and they try to attack him with a trick play, kind of bringing 88 out of the backfield, and there he is going up high for the ball, high pointed, coming away with a big interception. Then he had a good pass breakup. Unfortunately, got a personal timing foul in that instance. But you like the aggressiveness, you like the confidence that he was playing with, and you make more plays like that, you get less targets. But whoever lines up opposite Tre'Davious is probably going to get a lot more targets. It's just the way it is. And but the more you make plays, the less likely teams are going to come your way.
That was, I would call it an uncharacteristic display of emotion from him. I would I've joked with some people on our flight back today. Levi maybe is the last person I would expect to be the first to get a taunting penalty. But we don't need to go down the taunting penalty rabbit hole. But I mean, how rare is it for him to show that? He seems pretty even keel most of the time.
No, it's a good observation, John. That's not really his nature, his personality per se. He's one of those guys who's always under control, really smooth about the way he goes about doing things. And but he did show some emotion on that play, and it's good to see. You know, it's good to see that he showed some emotion because it's there. He has that fire in his belly, and it's good to see sometimes.
And then just real quickly, AJ Epinesa, one of the few who didn't get a sack, but boy, was he incredibly disruptive. Is that what you envisioned when the decision was made for him to change his body and almost change his style of play to become, rather than the power rusher he was in college, to more of a speed guy?
Absolutely. That was our hope and our desire when we talked to him about losing the weight, that this is what we wanted to see, more speed, because we felt like he had the athletic ability, but at 280 pounds, we weren't sure that we would get what we wanted at our level. And so in our scheme and how we do things. So dropping that weight and seeing what he did yesterday and what he's done through training camp and now through the preseason and then the regular season is exactly what we were hoping for. And there's a lot more good to come.
Thanks, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Hey, Leslie, were there any moments during the week where you felt like these guys are really excited about this game plan or really confident in it?
I think on Thursday, I really felt like they had a really good grasp after I watched the tape on Wednesday and we went through the third down package. After we had finished the first, second down package, you could see their confidence level in the game plan building. And then when we wrapped up on Friday, you know, it really was excited about the direction that we were going and how in tune the guys were with our vision as coaches for how we saw the game unfolding. Each time I talked to Tremaine or Jordan or Micah, our signal callers, they kept saying some of the same things that we were saying as coaches. So then you know that they kind of got the vision of what we anticipate. And so, yeah, maybe about Thursday, I had a good feel that we were on track.
And I just wanted to ask about Matt Milano's game. Anything stick out watching his tape?
Just how active he was. I mean, he won almost every time he went up against their running backs and protection. He won his battle and pass coverage as well. He was all over the place and very active and disruptive. Had a really good game for us. Really good game.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Leslie, it's Jay with the Buffalo News. How you doing?
Hey, Jay.
Hey, the idea with Greg Rousseau when he was drafted, there were a lot of people that suggested that he may be a guy that you want to bring along slowly, given that he opted out last year. He really only had 1 year of big time production in major college football. What has it been about him that you guys saw something different? I mean, here he is, you know, leading all snaps among your edge rushers yesterday by a pretty wide margin. How has he gotten so comfortable so quickly in your system that you're willing to put him in that position?
Yeah, I think it's just been a process, Jay, just watching him through the offseason program and then his production in the preseason. You know, we saw some things early on, but until we got the pads on in training camp, you really didn't want to, you know, put in a definition on what we were seeing. But the more we watched him in training camp, the more we watched him in meetings, the more we watched him in practices, the more our confidence grew as a staff. And then when we started playing games in the preseason, his production matched what we were seeing in training camp. And the game was never too big for him. Even though he had that year off without any football, there wasn't a big drop off. And so what we saw in training camp and in the preseason games has continued in these first two ball games of the season.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Coach Frazier, Mookie Hawkins, Waffle Sports Today. How's it going, sir?
Good. How you doing, Mark?
I'm great. Great game plan yesterday. 0 for 4 on fourth down. Care to talk about that as well? And contributions from your number 2 corners and Levi Wallace and Dane Jackson's big tackle on that fourth down as well, Coach.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. You bring up those 4 4th and 1s, 4th and 2s. Those were big plays, man. Because they're like sudden change in a lot of ways. When you, as an offense, have a chance to convert 4th and 1, you're believing that you can. We can get 1 yard or we can get 2 yards. And then you get stopped And at times you put the other team's offense on a short field, what a momentum turn that is. And for our players to come up with those are game-changing plays. And it was really good to see how we stood up in those moments, big plays. Dane and Levi both played extremely well. Levi had some good tackles and some pass breakups, and obviously an interception that we talked about earlier. But that tackle by Dane on that, I think it was 4th and 1 or 4th and 2 that he made, that was a huge play in the game. And they're in the red zone, chance to get at least 3, maybe a touchdown, and we get a turnover on down. So great tackle, great play, good to see by a young guy who we're counting on to continue to develop.
Absolutely. And now we already know, Coach, that you possess one of the best back ends in the NFL. And last year, it was a big problem concerning the run defense. But this year, you guys have been very stout against the run. You only held them to 70 yards this week. Tyler Tulue getting out there. What kind of impact do you think that he had out there in reference to the run D, Coach?
Yeah, Starman, he's been really good for us. It's great to have him back. He's had a lot to do with how stout we've been against the run in these first couple of ball games. And, he helps all the players around him. Okay, that's the good thing about it. It makes Ed Oliver a little bit better. It makes Justin's a little bit better. Vernon Butler, all those guys are benefiting from the fact that stars and obviously our linebackers off the ball because of how disruptive Star can be in the run game. They're benefiting as well.
Absolutely, Coach. Great job. Good luck this week.
Thank you.
Hi, Leslie. Nikki Javala from the Washington Post. Wanted to ask you a bit about Ron. I know you guys are close. How do you think he handled his first year in Washington with everything going on, including his own health and issues there? I mean, what did you make of his first year?
I thought he did a terrific job under the circumstances that you just alluded to. And it was not an easy year by any stretch with all the stuff that was going on. And then to get the team to the playoffs, that's a big deal under those circumstances. And it was hard. It was hard for him physically. It was hard emotionally. But he found the strength and the wherewithal to show up and come to work and motivate and really lead and during some adverse times. And there was a lot of stuff going on off the field as well as what was going on the field. So I thought he did an outstanding job.
And you're one of the few who have seen him as both a player and a coach. How does his play style compare to his coaching style? Is it sort of the same demeanor or maybe a little bit more brash on the field?
I think there's some similarities. As a player, he was a cerebral guy, a really smart player who I'm not surprised he's a coach today just because of the way he was as a player. I mean, he was backing up a Hall of Fame middle linebacker, Mike Singletary. So, but his knowledge of our defense and his ability to be able to communicate with his teammates, and then when he was on the field, the way he played, I mean, he played smart. Could anticipate plays based on formations, and I see some of that as a coach, how he can anticipate situations before they arise. And having a chance to talk with other coaches that have been his assistants in the past, they talk about that fact that Ron has the ability to foresee things before they actually happen. And that's the Ron that I remember, man. He was just so smart and always a step ahead. And that's helped him to be one of the best coaches in our league.
On the same side of that, do you see Sean in Ron? How are they alike?
Yeah, obviously both have defensive backgrounds, so they're always, concerned and involved to a degree with the defense. Their demeanor is a little bit different. Ron maybe a little more relaxed in some certain situations. Sean is more like Ron in his planning, his detail. They both are very detail-oriented guys. Really like to plan things out. I can see that influence that Ron had on Sean when it comes to that from an organizational standpoint. So very similar in that way. Their coaching styles are a little bit different. When you see Ron, he can be very stoic on the sidelines. I don't think that's changed. I haven't had a chance to watch many of the rest of the Washington football team games, but I know Sean is very intense on the sidelines. That is probably the biggest difference in the two.
And I'm curious, kind of off topic of that, but Washington's defense has gotten off to a little bit of a slow start, and I'm wondering from a defensive perspective how potent offenses are nowadays and less training time. Like, is it harder for defenses to get off to a faster start this time of year than ever before? Like, how has kind of the shift in like the CBA and everything kind of attributed to that, or if it has at all?
Yeah, I think it's definitely more difficult compared to what I remember in the past when you could actually tackle in training camp. You could be on the practice field a little bit longer, spend more time with the players. And in this COVID environment, the way training camp has had to be altered. It's definitely made it more difficult to get done some of the things you want to get done and get prepared for a season. So, and then when you have one less preseason game as well, all those things factor into maybe getting off to a slower start on defense than you might want. But eventually, you catch up. But the way things are structured now definitely makes it more challenging to be up to speed by week one as a defense.
Thank you.
Going back to Ron for a minute, my understanding is you helped talk him into becoming a coach in the first place.
I wasn't going to bring that up. I was going to let him bring that up. one of the conversations that you guys would have with him. But I do take credit for all those Coach of the Year awards that he's received, for sure. When I was a head coach at a very small school in Chicago, and Ron was trying to figure out what he wanted to do once he got through playing, I told him, I said, come over here and join me on my staff, man. You'd be a really good coach. And he didn't want to coach at the time. He wanted to dabble in other things. And then he eventually, his wife, matter of fact, ended up coming over to the school where I was at and was the assistant basketball coach at the college where I was at. And then eventually Ron went over and did some quality control work with the Bears. And next thing you know, we're both in Philadelphia as assistant coaches. And I told him, I said, didn't I try to tell you that you were a coach, man, and one day you're going to be a head coach and a good coach? And he said, yeah, I remember you talking to me about that. And so now, every time we get a chance to talk, I do remind him of that he owes me some residuals of some sort for getting him into this occupation, for sure.
Appreciate it. Congrats on all the success you've had through him.
Thanks.
All right, that's all we have for today. Thanks, Coach.
All right, you're welcome.